The difference between our sport and other sport is that the public can't see the real work we do in the car from the point of view of arms, of legs, of eye movements, and that's a shame. And it's because of this it will remain a myth. The Formula One driver is someone that you can't get near to, because one doesn't really see him at work. When you have a very strong passion, you think of nothing else, and since the age of 17 I've thought of nothing else. It's also the secret of success in a way.
What are the main differences between the 70s when you drove a Formula One and now?
I don't think there are many differences. I think the sport of motor racing, Grand Prix racing, has changed so rapidly since the very beginning, since the 100 years of racing. And the driver, the personality of the driver remains exactly the same. Whether it was Nuvolari, whether it was Fangio, whether it was Jim Clark or Niki Lauda or Alain Prost today, it's the same type of man, the same type of personality. Of course, technically it has changed. But that's the whole essence of Grand Prix racing. Technical change, constantly improving. And Grand Prix racing today is exactly the same spirit as it was when it all began.
Okay. Could we say that turbo cars with more than 100 horsepower, more than 1,000 horsepower, sorry, are really more difficult to drive than atmospheric cars?
The arrival of the turbo power in the last 10 years has been very impressive. And today, for Alain to drive a car with 1,200 horsepower, for example, is technically very difficult. But of course, again, the change has been very marked. When I first drove Formula One, there were very small tyres. And of course, the tyres became much larger. The difference of driving technique changed dramatically in that period. And many of us found it complicated to create that difference of change. And I think the same type of change came for Alain to drive normally aspirated, because when he arrived in Formula One, he's old enough to remember normally aspirated. But now he drives turbo, so that change has been accommodated. It's more difficult, but the next generation will have another problem to accommodate.
Alain Prost, do you agree with Jackie Stewart's opinion?
Yes, I agree 100%. I think it's at the moment with turbo car engine we get many problems, especially about the safety point of view, because the cars are very quick. But I think at their time, if we want to speak about the power and the safety was not as good as we have at the moment, especially on the track. So it's they made their time. We are making our time, and it's the best drivers are always the best drivers. They are always going to the best teams. So I think we can compare very easily.
Jackie Stewart, what do you think of Alain Prost as a driver? Do you think he's the best?
As a skier, he's a fantastic driver.
My life is divided into two, before Formula One and after Formula One. Or rather, before racing and after racing, with some periods that were a little difficult. The first good moment was the siesta at Antibes. They hired go-kart while I was on vacation with my parents, and it was the first time that I'd tried go-karting. I was 14 years old, I had one arm in plaster, and I raced a little club race, which I win with one hand. It began that very day. I said, this is fantastic. I must try to keep on go-karting, but without any fun, no money, my parents completely against it. There were already a few problems. And then after 2 or 3 years, I saved for over 2-3 years, you know. I tried to pick up some cash and I bought myself a second-hand go-kart, naturally against the advice of my parents again. And that's the second period. For 1 year, I took part in competitions which didn't go that well, since the go-kart didn't go that well. And then, of course, there was the third stage. I worked a little bit with my father while I was going to school, and I bought a new go-kart, and that was a trigger in terms of results. I became regional champion and French champion. And so that was the go-karting period. I was around 17, 18-year-old. And then afterwards, there was the Volo Ralph, that's the school for drivers at the Castellet circuit, which was paid for by the federation since I was the French go-karting champion. It's customary that the winner receives a racing scholarship. It's important as it covers a complete budget for a Renault Formula season. So I won this driving school, and this was the real trigger between what I would call the passion, which is complete amateurism. It doesn't help you at all. It's go-karting, ending up in a fantastic career in motor racing, starting with a status really of semi-professional driver. I learned a lot, mostly physically at first, because it is very hard physically. First of all, the circuit is very bumpy, very dangerous too. So I also learned to be a little bit outside the limit, because with a car that is quite difficult to drive, it's very hard to beat the limit on a circuit like this. You risk leaving the road, or you can really hurt yourself badly. I had the impression of racing Formula 1 for the first time, because the previous year I didn't have a very competitive car. And so I realized immediately that the car had enormous qualities and enormous potential, and that gave me a great pleasure. Not only to drive in a competitive car, I felt I had the means to develop it, to make it progress. It was encouraging for the future. I always have the impression of being one with my car. I don't know how to say it. It's not like a person or a human being, but it's like these animals, dinosaur or something. In reality, it's frightening and leave you open-mouthed. It's impressive. It's the same for me with my car. It's something very dangerous, but I try to dominate it, because often it dominates me. The relationship is a little bit bizarre. For me, it's a duel. It's something fantastic. Anyway, the first thing I do when I arrive in the morning is to go and look at my car. I know, for example, my mechanics won't change anything unless I know about it. I only need to see it's clean, thoroughly washed wheels, etc. The car, which was completely dismantled the day before, since one dismantles this car all the time, one changes a lot of things. And to see the car rebuilt like that, clean, ready to go, I've only one desire, to get into it. And each time I get into my car, and this could be every day for a whole week, it always gives me a lot of pleasure. The rapport with the team is very, very complex. It's very difficult to explain, you know. A team consists of about 100 people, but you don't work with all 100 at once. You work during the trials with about 10 people. During the races, you work with about 30 or 40 people. On the team, you have mechanics, you have engineers, you have sponsors, you have the people who accompany you, and all this makes up a group, a complete team. So it's very difficult, for example, to be friends with a mechanic. I have never been friends with a mechanic. I think that this might seem a little bit harsh from the outside, but I believe that it's absolutely impossible to be friends. Why be friends with one or two mechanics and not with the others? I think that that would create an unhealthy feeling in the team. I think personally the best relationship with the team is a little bit that what we have with the Marlboro McLaren team. Everybody is mates with everybody when it comes to work. It never goes further, in fact. It's a working relationship from the start. Each one has enormous respect for the others. I have enormous respect for the mechanics. Really, I would do anything for them. But really, I'm not the type to go and tap them on the shoulder and ask them how they are doing. You know what I mean?
You're the creator of this car, the brain behind the engine. What kind of a man is Alain Prost professionally?
He's completely dedicated. That's the first thing that comes across when you work with him. And he's obviously an exceptionally talented driver. He has a natural driving ability. That natural driving ability allows him to operate in a more relaxed way in the car. And so I think for me, at the moment, he is the complete driver in Formula One.
Some drivers seem to be very romantic and take a lot of chance. He gives the impression of being classical, cool.
That's
clean,
right.
as they say in French.
That's right. I think that comes back to my first statement, which is that because of his natural talent, he doesn't have to force it to achieve the performance, and therefore he always has a little bit left, and this gives him the capability of operating within himself, and therefore he is never stretched.
Would you say that as a technician he understands more about engines than other drivers?
Well, I think he is quite a mechanical person, and he certainly follows everything that happens on the car very, very closely. And because of his dedication, he can remember setups on the car from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And he will know after a certain time in the season, he will know exactly what to do with the car to make it operate the way he wants it to.
You can't see a single fault in him as a driver?
As a driver,
Frankly.
Well, for me, he's become even better this year, which surprises me, because I think there must be, before you win the first World Championship, there is enormous motivation because you have the main goal to achieve. And I'm always surprised when people have the same drive afterwards.
You've seen people going flat after?
Yes, yes, and I feel it's a natural reaction because of the pressures of Formula One, the effort that it takes. The natural reaction is to just relax a little bit. And with Alain, I mean, even in the testing in January, he seemed to me to have the attitude that, he'd almost forgotten about winning the World Championship and was already thinking about winning again, which surprised me.
T-shirts left in the bag? No. I tried to find one in your bag this morning.
I did in yours.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's my T-shirt from tonight.
There are two sorts of competitors. There is the opponent in another team and the co-driver, who is also a competitor, and he is often the most formidable because it's the rating, it's the way you rate in relation to another driver, and he drives the same car. So it's with him that is the most difficult, and it's with him, in fact, Niki Lauda, with whom I've had the best friendship.
Cosa pensi di Alain Prost?
I know him very well because I've driven with him many years, and I think he's one of the best in Formula One.
Tu hai parlato di Prost pilota, di Prost uomo?
I never had a problem with him. I always liked him as a person and as a pilot, and I think it will never change.
Luck can push you in the right direction, but you never win a race thanks to luck. If you win, it's perhaps because the others have a little less luck than you, or they've had some problems, or their car isn't as well prepared, etc. But you never win a race thanks to luck. But I think from time to time, between two drivers, between two teams, overall, not over one race, but over a season, over a career even, there are drivers who are a little bit more lucky, it's true, or who have a little bit more success, but it counts very little. Fear, and above all, fear of dying, can play a part in my profession. Let's say that it's always there. Anyway, I'm a worrier by nature. But death, in a way, frightens me less than an accident which could leave me with after effects for the rest of my life, paralyzed or something like that. Old age frightens me. So, in my case, death isn't something that obsesses me. An accident does a little bit. It is often felt before or retrospectively rather than during a race. But not really during the race or during the event, even if you run into another driver or almost come off the track at a very dangerous spot. You sweat a little and then you're off again right away. On the other hand, looking back after the race, 2 or 3 hours later, you say, well, if I'd come off the road there, then I would really have done myself an injury or even killed myself. Or before the race, when you inspect the track, you say, oh, this bend, you imagine the moment, what a mechanical breakdown would be at a bend like that. And that's fear, really. It's dread. But I think that it's quite normal. In any case, I say that I have a dread, that I'm frightened of an accident, and I think that whoever doesn't say that is either reckless, and I hope that there are less and less of those kind of people, because it puts everyone at risk, or else they are liars. I've already asked myself, what am I doing here? I could retire. I've said it once, even twice, during Didier Pironi's accident, when he jumped on top of me, because it was with me that it happened, when he ran into me. I was really the first witness of the accident, the first to see him in the car. Then I thought to myself, what am I doing here? And the second time it was Gilles Villeneuve's accident at Zolder. The next day, I raced almost as usual, because I think that deep down we aren't... I don't know if something is missing in us or if we have something extra, but I believe we aren't normal. I'm religious. I'm a believer, you know. I'm a Catholic, of course. I did practice, but what does it mean, practicing? Mass is always at warm-up time on Sunday morning, you know. That's the way it goes. My preparation, always difficult really to explain, because there really isn't anything precise. For example, someone who does athletics, since I have done a bit myself, or even football, they always do their training either in the evening or on Monday, on Wednesday or on Friday. It's all programmed. Everybody is there for them. For us, nobody coaches us personally. We don't really have a coach who says you have to do half an hour's jogging, a bit of cycling. So it's up to us to take it into consideration and do it, or want to do it. I don't want to project an image of myself at all. I don't even know what image I have, or what my image is. But I think that on a personal level, when I'm with friends, I like to laugh a lot. I can even drink quite a bit, you know. It happens. And that certainly is not the image that I have with the trade press, with people who know me as a driver. In fact, I think that there is a time for everything, really. There's a time for work, there's a time for play also, there's a time for family life, there's a time to relax, there's time for leisure or for sport. And when you think about it, this is what life is made up of.
C'est génial, tu joues vraiment de plus en plus mal, hein. C'est vraiment pas de chance. Devant Boinard en plus tu joues mal. C'est con pour toi. Enfin, j'ai gagné au tie-break 7-6. 7 non, combien 7-4. Il manque un 7.
The best preparation, in fact, is to detach. It's what I've always done ever since I've raced. When I'm working, I'm there 100%. Of course, this doesn't prevent me from thinking of my family, but when I'm at home, I also try to think about racing as little as possible. You have to think about it because there's always work to do, if only calling the factory, talking things over with the engineers, dealing with the next race, tuning the cars. You have to think about it. But when I'm at home, I disconnect completely. For instance, neither my wife nor my son normally talk to me about motor racing. Whether I win or lose, normally when I get home on Sunday evening or Monday morning, it's over. You have forgotten everything, you are thinking about the next race. It's a question of organization. But in any case, it has nothing to do with the thought process of the race, although that can happen. I'm not obsessed by the race, certainly not when I'm at home. And this is very important because it allows me to unwind, to concentrate on something else and not think of all the problems I could have. Since settling down here especially, I feel as if I've separated my private life and my life as a racing driver even more. The morning after the warm-up, it went very, very well, and I was very optimistic. So maybe we did a few stupid things. Technically, we changed the turbo because we wanted to be sure, in case of rain, you know, since it predicted a rainy day, to have a flexible motor at low revs. And Nicky had tried some small turbos, and he had the best time, and I thought it was safer. And then the engine didn't go as well. It hiccuped at the start and the brakes weren't great. But I think it was the sort of tactical race I wanted to run. I was caught at my own game in as much as I wanted to wait as long as possible, and I only attacked at the end. But I don't have any regrets, as we know that at the technical control the Ferrari still had 12 liters of fuel, while I, with my computer, I ran the whole race to arrive with 1 liter in the tank. That's what happened, and I could have gone even faster. So to catch up the Ferraris was good, but to overtake them was totally impossible. And my brakes weren't perfect, and the car wasn't super. So all in all, I'm satisfied with the 4 points, as the object is to have points from time to time. You know, it's almost a year that either I win or I lose. It's the first podium since a very long time. You were world champion with McLaren, but didn't quite make it with Renault. Do you know why? I have always known why. I have never tried to hide from it. And I've always come out and said why we weren't world champion. But I think, unfortunately, that they haven't learned the lesson from that failure. I have thought that for so long that Renault should have been world champion, twice at least, notably in 1982 and in 83. Everything that I've said to do with Renault is because I wanted to win the world championship with them. And that's always been my great regret, not to have been world champion with the French stable. It's not yet lost for me, but I think that for them it will be very hard, even if they want to make a comeback, which I hope they will do. Perhaps in a year or two, one doesn't know.
Prost leading from SENNA, with AYRTON third, Prost and Berger fifth.
For me, Formula One was first a sport and a passion, and then it became a profession. You have to appreciate it for what it is. You have to preserve it. To preserve it, you have to try not to mix everything up. Because I think that I wouldn't appreciate it as much if I thought about it only as a sport or a passion. I consider it as a profession, and I think that it's because of this that I do it. I think better than others. Because for me, it is a fully fledged profession. I have to dedicate myself to it 100%. There's no place for my wife or my family on the track. Perhaps on a few where she can bring me a certain balance, but it's very rare. I've worked a lot in this house. I'm not entirely happy with it yet. I know what I want to change, and unfortunately I'm impatient. For example, this table, it annoys me. Every day I see it and I tell myself I must change this table. The apple trees in front of the house. Every day I tell myself that I want to cut them. It's part of my character. There are things that I want to do, that I want to change, and I'd like to have them straight away. But on the other hand, I won't forget that I have to change this table. You'll see, there'll be another one. You want to change it because you have seen another one? No. It's because I think that it isn't ideal, really. To my eyes, it isn't really right with the decor, in any case. It's something. There is something which will go better, so I'm going to find it. It isn't a problem. I'll find it, you know.
between the two. Williams.
I've always had an office everywhere I settled, whether in France or in Switzerland. I've always wanted to have an office at home because for me it's indispensable. It's a place where I work, where I take my phone calls, do my papers. I'm not just a Formula One racing driver. I have activities outside the sport. I have to have an occupation other than that of a normal Formula One driver, and for that I need an office. But this office is something completely different. It's part of the house. It's just below my bedroom, and it's completely isolated, which means that when I want to get away from everyone, even those who are part of the house or guests, I go to my office. I can work quietly, and I have everything I need to be comfortable. I have a sitting room, a television, a bathroom, a small gym, and I can isolate myself and concentrate on whatever I want. It's really a refuge, which is very important for me. Even at home, I like to be on my own from time to time. But it's nothing extraordinary. There aren't any big trophies or souvenirs. I'm not keen on collecting trophies. For a long time, I gave them to my family, to my parents. And now, since '84, I've been giving them to McLaren. They look after them for me. And even if I regret it one day, for the time being, at least, I don't think much about it, you know. And that's the way I organize myself. There are only some helmets here, which all mean something. And that's why I have them, in fact. This one is the helmet I use when I work with Renault, and it represents an era. This one, still with Renault, and that was in Dijon, my first victory. And this is the one with which I was world champion at Brandsatch in 1985. It is certainly the most important to me. And then this one is the first victory with McLaren. And then 2 or 3 pictures. They symbolize a part of my career. Brandsatch in 1984 with Niki Lauda. And he was certainly the best co-driver I've had, at least the one with whom I got on the best. It's a photo which is at the same time a symbol. We are both in front of our cars. I like it a lot, really. 1984, the victory in Brazil. And then this photo of the whole McLaren team in 1984 after the first World Championship title. Certainly one of my best seasons, even if it wasn't crowned with the title. From the point of view of the atmosphere, it was fantastic, really, I can tell you.
O hino britânico da McLaren, no pódio para entregar o troféu aos vencedores, o ministro do Total, Alberto Carneiro, o ministro do Comércio e Turismo, Ferreira do Amaral.
I didn't program myself to become champion because I think that in this field one has to take into account the mechanical aspect, which plays an enormous part. From one year to another, you can find yourself with a car which practically doesn't work. So I didn't program myself that way. But I have followed my path. Mainly, I had this philosophy, this idea. From the moment I became very professional, from the start of the race, I wanted everyone to follow behind, certainly those who work with me, and when they didn't always do that, there were problems. But I always followed my idea. And I think that now, without changing anything, I have never tried to get people to come to me. I never asked them to love me, to follow me. I have never done that, you know. I think that people now like me a lot. I think it's also because I win, because I have won, because I've been world champion. But in being world champion, I have proved to the people who criticized me 2 or 3 years before that I was right. That is my best victory, and the one of which I'm most proud. I'm simply reassured. So now I believe in the image of someone who wins and who doesn't make mistakes professionally. And that, I think, is ideal. It gives me more serenity than I could ever wish for.
Nice so slow. No, you're good. It's not too slow.